is the fact that between 2020 and 2022, we experienced severe challenges triggered by the pandemic, which brought the world and our country to a thundering halt. The world experienced the greatest economic depression since the 1930s, with most countries recording negative GDP growth. Supply chain disruptions and the rising price of oil resulted in major increases in the prices of fuel, freight, and food across the globe. Indeed, Ghanaians were hit very hard by rising food prices, increased exchange rate depreciation, rising fuel prices, and rising transport fares. Our debt became unsustainable and had to be restructured. Bondholders saw a sharp decline in their net worth following the painful yet unavoidable debt restructuring program. We faced very challenging times, but with calm leadership and the support and understanding of the good people of Ghana, we have weathered the storm, and the economy is firmly on the path of recovery, with increasing GDP growth and declining inflation. It is gratifying to note that our policy interventions have started yielding the desired macroeconomic results. Many economists and analysts have rightly stated that Ghana has turned the corner, but we know that for many families, the cost of living is still very high. There remains the fact that between 2020 and 2022, we experienced severe challenges triggered by the pandemic, which brought the world and our country to a thundering halt. We are equally committed to creating more job opportunities that will significantly reduce youth unemployment among the national population that has increased over 5 million in the last 8 years alone. We have created so far 2.3 million jobs, the most of any government in the Fourth Republic. But youth unemployment remains a major concern and that confronts us, and we are committed to doing even more. This is why, ladies and gentlemen, it is better to continue with a party that has created more jobs than any other in the Fourth Republic than go back to a party and a leader who, after 4 years of doom so, created more unemployment than any government in the Fourth Republic. The world is facing what is commonly referred to as the global cost of living crisis. Even though the inflation has dropped by half this year, prices remain high. I want a Ghana where we can attain food security through the application of technology and irrigation to commercial large-scale farming. We will also promote the use of agricultural lime to reduce the acidity of our soils, enhance soil fertility, and get more yield from the application of fertilizers. Ghana has an abundance of limestone to do this. I will prioritize the construction of the Pualugu Dam by using the private sector financing to crowd in grant financing. Ladies and gentlemen, we will also ensure food security by stabilizing the prices of foods produced locally through financing and guarantees from the Development Bank Ghana and the Ghana Incentive-Based Risk-Sharing System for Agriculture. The ECD is designed to work online and offline and will be launched by the Bank of Ghana in due course. The ECD will be the ultimate weapon in our fight against corruption because it will provide transparency, reduce the risk of fraud, robbery, tax avoidance, and money laundering, since it will be easy to track the movement of money and identify suspicious activity. The ECD will quicken the pace of Ghana's move towards a cashless or a near cashless society. We will also, ladies and gentlemen, implement blockchain technology and smart contracts for secure data exchange and transparent government services. Employing a distributed ledger technology improves transparency and efficiency. This will make all government transactions permanently traceable and not subject to alteration. I want Ghana to be the first country in Africa and one of the few in the whole world to become an all-government blockchain government. If there was any doubt, to believe it is crystal clear from the data-backed account we have given that our overall performance and track record are superior to that of my opponent and his party in virtually every sector. Virtually every sector we are superior. But I believe, as a former president and a proud student of history, he knows that. And that is one part of the reason why he is avoiding a debate.
Dr. Bawumia, the NPP's flag bearer, presidential candidate, talking about enlisting some at least 380 promises. They have tagged bold solutions found in their manifesto of 260 pages. Yes, bold solutions, including to continue and improve free SHS. Continue and improve. There will not be a review, I suppose, because a review means it will be scrapped. In the politics, it's not easy. Establish a national open university. They intend to do. They will implement the Polygu irrigation scheme. When will that dam actually kick off? After how many years of cutting salt for it? And how much sunk into only feasibility work? Progressively reduce the cost of data. Both parties are talking about reducing the cost of data. There will be a national credit scoring system. He's been talking about this for a while. He will harmonize port charges. There will be an additional holiday for Eid al-Adha. Then the Cape Coast Airport construction will happen. Protect Ghanaian cultural and family values. That sounds like what is pending at the Supreme Court, most unlikely to be decided before the elections. Free tertiary scholarships for PWDs. He's going to cap ministers by 50. John Mahama is promising 60. What is this current government doing? 85 or more? And why can't we have 50 now? I think that's the question people are asking. Elect MMDCEs. Remember the botched MMDCE process? When it could be done by Parliament, the president says, let's go to a referendum and make it partisan. The CDD research says Ghanaians prefer it to be non-partisan. Is that what he's promising? Doesn't look like that. Reform ex gratia. How exactly? Review single spine salary structure, among other things. In tax, area of tax, There's going to be a flat tax rate, tax amnesty, VAT reform. He will abolish betting tax. His opponent promises that. He will also abolish e-levy. His opponent, who is against it, of course, insists that that must happen. And then there'll be a removal of duties on mobile phones. How will you do that under this economy that is hemorrhaging? Well, the NPP has a way of describing the struggling economy that the opponent and some of us say is in crisis. They say the rebounding economy. My guest in the studio, Kofi Koranteng, tough talking, very blunt, 2024 presidential hopeful, new vision movement. Thank you for making the time to join us, Kofi.
Samson, good to have.
Great.
How you doing?
I'm great, thanks for asking. Andrew Ejapamesa is MP, 2nd and Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture. You saw him and you heard him at the Manifesto launch. Inus Afoseni is lawyer, former MP. If I say lawyer, then I should say Japamesa is also lawyer. He's a lawyer, former MP, Tamale Central, and former Minister Lands and Natural Resources, as well as Roads and Highways. And Dr. John Osai Kwapong, Democracy and Development Fellow, CDD Ghana, and Director, the Democracy Projects, the Afro Barometer man, also joins us. So, gentlemen, thanks for joining us.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Great. So, let me start with the man in the middle.
Okay.
You've seen the promises, 380 of them by our counts, bold solutions indeed, including that e-levy will be scrapped, betting tax will go, and a host of a number of things. There will be election of MMDCEs, among others. Cost of living, they call it, do they also admit it's a crisis? Cost of living crisis will be reduced. Yes, Inus of Seni.
Yes, I think it's proper, Samson, to say good morning to my, is it former colleague?
Oh, you're still my colleague.
A member, yeah, and at the bar.
Right.
A member of Parliament. For secondary,
Yes,
he stepped into the shoes of Papa Usankuma for a very long time since I left Parliament. And the Kofi
Koranteng, correct.
New Vision Party. And to your good self, Samson, we just left with a little under or about 4 months to go to national elections. And, elections are generally about a social compact between the people and those who seek to lead them. Now, so manifestos are a critical part of the preparations towards entering into a social compact with the people. Now, you must understand that we are in a democracy and you can't take all the people for granted. And so when you say you want to do certain things, the people who we are seeking to lead have a duty, an obligation, the right to look at the manifesto and the promises that you are making to them to see whether you can do it.
They'll judge you by your track record.
Judge you by your track record. And judge you even by the things that you say. And I listened to you when you were reading the CDD report. I've also read Professor Kwarteng's analysis of what will happen and the fact that we're in the manifesto period. My people in the Bong says, and I'm sure your people in Upper East will say that when a person promises you a hat, the best way of knowing whether he can deliver on the promise is to look at his head. If he's wearing one, that means that he has hat or a hat which he can give. It's also important for you to know that the 2024 manifesto of the NPP has been escalated. In 2020, it was 224 thereabouts.
Promises.
In 2024, they've escalated it. I can understand why. because the promises of 2024 and the promises of 2016 got them into the Flagstaff House. So the promises have worked for them. So if they are escalating because there's a track record. Okay, and there's data to support that. Now, but what is Bawumia saying? First of all, it is important for you to know that according to the statistics of the Ghana Statistical Service, the unemployment situation now has 820,000 people. 820,000 people by the 2023 records of the Ghana Statistical Service are unemployed.
That is the number of people who have been pushed into, is it extreme poverty?
No. So what is no, that you're talking about hardcore unemployment. Those who, and that is the statistics he has used.
Okay.
And it's important for you to understand that for the first time.
You're talking about unemployment.
Unemployment.
Okay, okay.
For the first time, Dr. Bawumia is playing tricks with the statistics, the data. The foundation for saying that he has created 2.3 million jobs is the World Labor Index report, which
World Development.
World Development Indices. It's not even the index. You say index, but it's not index. It's indices. In your manifesto, you say index. Now, and it's from the World Bank. And they are looking at people, that indices is looking at people who we call hardcore unemployment. There are people who have sat in the house for so long that they've looked for a job, they can't get the job, and they have been so disillusioned that they're not even looking for jobs anymore. That's the hardcore unemployment. And that's the data Bawumia is working with. Because if you go and look at the Statistical Service data, which is on Ghana, doesn't support what he's saying. In fact, if indeed within the period, and I can give you the statistics. Now, and just bear with me, you will see the statistics presently.
So presently we know we have a 14.7% rate of unemployment. Yes.
Yes. And if you have between 2,000, difference between 2,000 unemployment and 2023 unemployment is 820,000 people. Then you should be talking about underemployment. You should be saying that NPP has created enough jobs that nobody in Ghana should actually be unemployed. But that's not so. It's not supported by the evidence. Now, what is the statistics? So, in 2017, the unemployment, the total national population was 29,430,000. Labor, the total population, national population. The working age population by the Ghana Statistical Service in 2000, which starts working age population, which starts from 15 plus. In 2000 was 17,250,257. The total employed in 2017 was 11,216. 11,216,724. And unemployed then was 1,027,594. And what viewers will pardon me, the picture is not so clear. Inactive, those of the population who are not active at all by the Statistical Service, was 12,013,938. The labor force, those employed, those active, and all those, was 12,244,318. The labor force participation was 70.95%.
Okay, so can we come to the 2013 you were talking about so that you can make the point you want to make?
Let's do the 2023, not 2013. 2023.
I meant 2023.
2023. Our national current population is 34 million. 34 million. The working age, 15 and above, who are entitled to work, is 19,507,000. The employed. 12 million. Now, so first of all, just go back to 2017, that Bawumia is a basis point. The total population was 29 million. Now it's 34 million. The total, the employed in 2017 was 11 million. That's immediately NPP came to office, the Statistical Service said 11 million were employed. Now, today, 2020, last year, 2023, they are still compiling the data. They have not come out with the validated the data yet. 2023 was 12 million. So even if you do the relativities, more people or less people are employed now, but in terms of the population, as a ratio of the population. Now, the difference, and we are looking at 2017 to 2023, is 820,690 people are unemployed.
The 2023 report by the Statistical Service said that the unemployed youth aged between 15 and 35 rose from about 1.2 million to over 1.3 million during that period.
Yes.
However, a bit of females got more jobs than males.
Yes, but even if you look, a bit of female got more jobs than male. But even if you look at the impact of the unemployment, female within that age bracket suffer more than men.
What's the point?
The point is that Bawumian statistics, the vice president's statistics, cannot be correct. Cannot be correct. And that is why I'm saying that because we're in a democracy, we're entitled to interrogate what he says. And I can tell you that by the statistics of the Ghana Statistical Service, the information can never be correct. And I challenge him, as an economist, to go back and look at the statistics generated.
What did he say?
He said that they have created 2.3 million jobs. And within the Fourth Republic, it is the NPP government within 2017 to 2023 and even today that has created more jobs.
You didn't tell us at 2017 when they inherited the number of, is it 10 or almost 11
Unemployment was 8%.
No, 11 million or so that you mentioned.
Yes.
You didn't tell us what rate of that number was created between maybe your first term and your second term, so that we use that to measure if what he's saying is actually incorrect.
Well, I've not said that because I didn't come with that statistics. Okay.
Because I think to be able to fault him on what you think may be a superior record or fact, I think you need to be able to break it down. If he says this is what we have done over this period, can you then show us the period before, the period that took us to the number you mentioned they inherited? What was the addition?
Well, something you are perfectly right, and it's a legitimate question. But I didn't come here to do a comparison between NPP and NDC. I came here to interrogate what Bawumia is telling us. Okay? And to say that I should even compare the NPP figures as presented to us by Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia with the NDC is to suggest that we validate what he's telling us. It's only when you validate what he's telling us that you can compare with existing records. I'm challenging the veracity of his claims and the correctness of the data. Okay. So I cannot even compare.
So you have spoken about unemployment. What I can tell you is that
unemployment in 2016, when we were leaving office, was 8%. Today it's not 8%. Today it's 14%. I can tell you that. And that again is from the Statistical Service. Okay? But after we've launched our manifesto today, if you want to do a comparison.
So today it's 14.7. That's not the same as 14%.
14.7. So it's close to 15. Close to 15. And even looking at the percentages alone, you will see that clearly unemployment was lower in 2016 than 2023.
I understand you, but my inquiry was to help us in a certain way, because he says for every sector, if they make the comparison, they have a superior record.
Again, it's wrong.
So I just wanted
what was
to know if it was unemployment rate was 8 at your time.
Yes.
I was interested in knowing what was it before you took over. What did you add in the employment mix?
You don't need to be in a hurry. This conversation will continue, and after we've launched our manifesto, we set the basis, the platform.
And this is going to happen this afternoon.
This afternoon. So you don't need to, to be in a rush.
And Bawumia is going to take questions like John Mahama did Sunday. So maybe we'll ask him this question when we go there.
Well, yes. So for now, it's not even Bawumia. For me sitting here is my party launching this manifesto. For me sitting here, Samson, and accepting your invitation is to do a critical analysis of what Bawumia has said and what NPP said in their manifesto. And I can tell you as a matter of facts that the statistics do not support them. You can't say that you have performed so well when your deficit has gone through the roof.
So, like the CDD,
you can't say you have performed well when your inflation hit 54%.
Like the CDD invites us to do for those who are making manifestos. He says the things to be addressed should include, inescapably, high and persistent youth unemployment, increasing poverty. These are matters of employment.
Yes.
So he told you how he intends to address that.
Yes.
So I think that should be the focus, right?
Yes. And what are the solutions? What are the solutions? What solution did he offer on solving that? And you remember? I don't remember any. I see mere rhetoric.
Your manifesto has not been launched yet. If I ask you what you are going to do about unemployment, you will tell me a number of the things that John Mahama has been saying around. So is it that you are deliberately, deciding to ignore Bawumia's approach to resolving unemployment?
I don't see the approach. I see rhetoric. And I will not even take the offer of talking about our manifesto here because it's yet to be launched. So I decline that. Now, what I'm saying is that read their manifesto, and I'm happy and thankful to Joy FM for sending me their manifesto. What is a mere repetition of rhetoric. And I can understand Bawumia because he did it before. He told you that he was going to move this country from taxation to production. He told you that there was no reason why Ghana roads should not be paved with concrete. That there was no reason why. He said that the Kayaye ought not to be living at Agbogboloshi. That he was going to move them and build for them. He told you that. Now, he told you many things. Again, he told us that this government, the NPP government, was developing the largest hydroelectric dam and irrigation dam in the north. What we have come to realize is that money has been sunk in the dam with no results. So there are many things that he said. I mean, if we want to go to those things that he said, clearly Bawumia cannot come out nice. But what I'm saying is that the 320 promises contained in their manifesto, some of them is a little hashed up promises that were contained in the NDC manifesto of 2020. Yeah, I can tell you, as a matter of fact. They were, I mean, providing scholarships for PWDs. It was contained in the NDC manifesto of 2020. Unless you didn't know about it. And so, I mean, and some of them too have been plagiarized from the documents made available to them by our manifesto. When we said we were going to establish a women's bank because there should be inclusiveness in the gender inclusiveness in the economic development of this country, and the best way to do that is to establish a financial institution that will care for and provide resources for women to also be part, inclusive part.
So even though
they say they are going to establish a fund.
So even though there is an entire chapter that is dedicated to jobs and opportunities for the youth, you will find that for every subsector he talks about, it is interlaced with job opportunities to be created. If it is manufacturing, there is opportunity for jobs, new and emerging jobs that he talks about. So I can't believe that you are reading and you didn't skip chapter 4. Even if you did, you would see that he's talking about jobs throughout. And chapter 4 is titled Jobs and Opportunities for the Youth. You don't believe that?
I'm saying that.
He says, for example,
yes,
over the past 8 years under the Akufo-Addo-led administration, notwithstanding the unexpected global economic crisis, we have created 2.3 million jobs.
Now, say it's wrong.
This is page 52. Page 52.
Yes, I'm going.
We have created 2.3 million jobs and implemented programs and policies that support our youth and small businesses, including having disbursed a total of 1.44 billion to support 444,367 youth-owned small-scale businesses through Ghana Enterprise Authority, over 250,000 young entrepreneurs have been given entrepreneurial training, and 15,000 small businesses funded through the National Entrepreneurship and Innovation. He gives you this background and now comes to tell you that he says, but this is not enough. We have to do more. And he begins to roll out the things they will do. Incentivize the creation of jobs by the private sector, complemented by public sector jobs in, for example, health, education, and security services. He's talking about train 1 million.
Some people in data.
1 million youth in digital skills. Create jobs through private sector construction and infrastructure development, industrialization and agribusiness. Create jobs through tax amnesty program. Create jobs for artisans, carpenters, masons, welders, etc. Built environment professionals to maintain public infrastructure through a revived and resource PWD. Create SME jobs with the introduction of the SME Bank. Remember that. And he talks about a whole lot. National Cybersecurity, workshop development program, and a lot. You say you haven't seen this.
I've seen this. I've seen them all. Tell me how they create the jobs. What all the list that you have, tell me how they create the jobs. Just tell me. You've read them well, comprehensively.
They supported small SMEs. They use the youth entrepreneurial.
What is the statistics? What is the evidence? Which people did he support? Do you have the evidence?
If you don't have the contrary evidence, what are you talking about? That they are lying?
If you don't have the contrary evidence, you still have the right to challenge the evidence. And I say, produce the evidence. The fact that I don't have the contrary evidence and they have not made it available to Ghanaians doesn't mean that I can challenge the evidence. Because I see many people now are on the streets selling dog chains than before. I see that evidence. I see many people standing at the traffic lights trying to wipe the glass of your car in order to survive than before. I see many stores closing down. I see many businesses leaving Ghana. So tell me, which people did they provide the resources for? Because those resources were public resources. And those resources were intended and meant to create jobs. And by the fact that they were using public resources, they have a duty to make the impact, the socio-economic impact of that policy available to us, the evidence supporting what they have done. That's why I say it's mere rhetoric.
You have not looked for it.
Oh, hey. You spend my. That's what you remember RTI, the arguments that are made there. If you are using, and that's why it found itself into the law. You are using public resources to generate information, and you are saying that I should come look for the information. I should, in the RTI, the initial concern was I should pay for the information.
At each time when these loans or incentives were being given to the small-scale businesses, there was news, and we got to know them.
Oh, they were given to small-scale business, and I also know that when they they publicized it, and I also know that when the COVID funds came and they said they were going to, I know most of the money went to the activists. In fact, I know particularly in the South Narrabri constituency, the 2020 candidate complained that when the money came, she didn't benefit from it. She gave it to the executives.
The parliamentary candidate.
The candidates. Felicia Tete.
All right.
Yeah. So I know that from the grapevine, they gave money. But I asked, because they were public resources, Samson, aren't we entitled to know who benefited from those resources? Who were the people they gave the resources?
So you choose to isolate the issue of job creation and jobs for their manifesto to discuss. So thank you. Let me come to.
I've not isolated. Actually,
yeah.
This is because he mentioned. That's the clip you played. That he said he created.
So that's the portion you paid attention to. We played him say a host of things about this manifesto.
That's a palpable and demonstrable lie.
But I don't think it's fair to the politics to just say everything he said was a lie.
No, I'm saying that 2.3 is a palpable, demonstrable lie.
You may say it's inaccurate. You may say it's inaccurate, or that it's been boasted in a way that it ought not be. It is less. But to say it's a lie that they have created jobs.
I heard you introducing Quarantine that he says it as it is. I heard you. And I think that was a comment.
No, if you had given me the okay, so Kofi.
Yes, sir.
I know that like a good number of Ghanaians, you are just tired of the duopoly, and that's why you have put yourself in the middle. What do you say?
All right. So
380 separate promises, and Bawumia is saying earlier, we made you some promises, and those promises, check us by each record. We have done a good job. We made 223 promises in the 2020 election campaign. We have delivered massively. So trust us on the 380.
All right. So a good morning to you, Samson. It's been a little while since we met, and to my esteemed co-panelists, a very good morning to you, and to the entire Ghana, a very good morning to everyone listening. Samson, we are in a crisis. 740 billion cedis of debt. We have no industry. I know the Ghana Statistical Service gave us a little pat on the back that we had a trade surplus of about 5.3 billion 2023, but it's a deceptive trade surplus, and I'll explain to you why that is deceptive. We don't have any industry. We have 7,317,555 families, which represent 24.3% of all household population in multi-dimensional poverty. Out of that amount, 43.5% is in not only multidimensionally poor, but they are in extreme poverty happening to them simultaneously. That means not having housing, jobs, healthcare, employment. They also cannot get water. They cannot get good food. On top of that, in Ghana, when we are the number 1 in gold revenues in Africa and number 6 in the world. Mind-blowing. Last year, we did 2.3 billion cedis of intos from Burkina and Guinea from Niger.
Importation.
Yeah, importation. 2.3 billion. When we have, everywhere you go, green. The sun is abundant. Rains fall to the extent that it not only destroys the little that we've been able to put together as citizens, but water everywhere. We still buy. Now, mind you, Burkina and Niger don't have planting for foods. They don't have one district, one family, one.
Three.
No, they don't. They don't have 1 million, one constituency. But we go to them to import food, tomatoes and onions.
But you will be asked, imagine what the situation will be without planting for food and jobs.
It shouldn't. It shouldn't be, because we have more abundance than them. So it doesn't make any kind of sense. We go to Denmark to import guinea fowls. The last time I heard they flew away to the other side of the border. Now we go to Denmark. It's ridiculous what is going on in Ghana.
In a factual sense, guinea fowls can't fly that far. But it was an expression to show that what we could have done, we didn't do.
Well, I tell you right now, we spent billions of cedis importing them from Denmark, and that's a problem. And you know why? Because we have a deficit in corn, feed. We don't even have our own poultry. So to have
the poultry industry, sincerely, as we know the facts, has been dying.
Why?
And those in charge of that industry tell us that the poultry we import, the poultry we consume, we are not responsible for even 2% of it.
Okay.
Not 2% of it, according to the president of the association.
Okay, so that should be worrying, correct?
Very worrying.
Okay, so now you have Master Bawumia show up and say, oh, we got jobs. Really? What kind of jobs? Because close to 30% of the population lives under 5 cedis a day. Where's the jobs? I don't see any jobs. And when he says jobs, Ghanaians are not looking for jobs. Ghanaians are looking for a lifestyle. What is a lifestyle? To be able to have a place to lay my head, to have good food, nutritional value to eat.
There's a job that gives you that.
But that's what I'm saying, that every job should be able to give you that. If it doesn't give you that, it's not a job. It doesn't even sustain you. Listen, I know people who sleep on their jobs from Monday through Friday, and on Friday they go home to see their family because they can afford transportation. Jobs should give you a lifestyle. These jobs these guys are talking about, the Zoom Lion type of jobs, These are 150 cedis a month, 180 cedis a month, and they're in arrears 6 months. They're not paying. That's not a job. That's not a job, Samson.
You're looking at the extreme situations, are you not?
They are citizens. Extreme to what extent?
Is the glass half full or half empty? That's the question.
Well, let me tell you what. Listen, Ghana Statistical Service is telling us 7,317,555 families are in multi-dimensional distress. Yeah. That's not my number. Where is Bawumia getting his numbers from? Oh, are you going to challenge that? I didn't make that up. I just read it.
I know about it.
Okay, so then what are you saying? This is pure fact. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Where did he get the numbers from? Listen, if you took a picture of that and you mirrored it over 2020, you wouldn't see any difference.
Really?
Oh, come on. Samson, listen. Now, for the first time here, I have 3 lawyers. Lawyers, I know, no pun intended. But all the lawyers do is process. Let's talk process. Oh, this and I talk life. Because the bottom line is life. Do you realize that he never addressed a single statement about our debt situation? 740 billion cedis. How are we going to pay that? He didn't talk about that. He didn't talk about agriculture. Why we need to put billions of dollars into agriculture. He didn't talk about that. How's he going to be able to do everything else that he talked about? Where's the money come from? Go back to Bretton Woods? We're going to be visiting with Bretton Woods again, I guess, because they don't have a plan, definitely, for money. How are we getting the income?
Should he just talk about debt, or you are interested in what he's going to do, or the party is going to do, to turn the situation around? That's what he spoke about. And the CDD, shows us the way that the manifestos must respond to unprecedented socio-economic challenges, including worst economic crisis since the 1980s, national indebtedness.
Okay, so now the 2 major factors that affect this situation you just talked about is number 1, debt. And number 2, income. You can't do anything from where we are with without these 2 things. Addressing our debt issue and finding out where the income is coming in, because then this becomes something that we keep going to. And the cycle has repeated since the creation of bread. How are we going to fix this problem? Listen, let me tell you, he doesn't know what he's talking about. And he doesn't know what he's talking about, because yesterday I was in Circle and I was in tears. I lost it. Sorry, but I did. You know why? Because there were children sleeping on the sidewalks. You couldn't wake them up. And I asked the mother what was wrong. And they said they were tired because they have to wake up in the morning and walk to Akwanje and come back begging for food to eat, and people so by the time they make the trip to Akwanje and back to Circle, they're exhausted. These are 5-6-year-olds. We are the number 1 in gold. Our gold alone could build Dubai in Accra. Are we adding value, Samson? He didn't talk about adding value. What we do, everything we create, 80% of our exports in the cocoa, oil, and gold. What do we do with it? We give it away for pennies. We don't add value. Why is no one talking about how we're going to be able to create and add value here in Ghana, so we could stop being dependent on an outside source that controls us? Why can't that be the conversation? This manifesto is garbage.
At paragraph 18,
go ahead.
he speaks about sustaining and expanding Ghana's rebounding economy.
Nonsense.
And he says that they will further accelerate the growth and expansion of the economy over the next 4 years. We increase the size of the economy by US $20 billion since 2016, from US 56 billion to US 76 billion by end of December 2023. They intend to achieve and sustain an average 6% growth by expanding agriculture, mining, including establishing Minerals Development Bank, 1D, 1F, emerging industries, digital hub, and services, sports, tourism, and creative arts. They're going to increase public-private partnerships, establish an independent fiscal responsibility council. You're talking about the debt. This is part of that. Amend the Fiscal Responsibility Act to add a new fiscal rule that requires that expenditure in any year does not exceed 105% of the previous year's revenue.
Let me tell you, Samson, Chat GPT can do better than that.
GTP.
Yeah, AI can do better than that. It can. And it sounds like he probably put it in the artificial general intelligence program to spit that out.
That's not fair.
Oh, it's fair because, okay, so now it's not fair. So now let's go to results. Because none of this seems to be driven by results. It's all talk. Have you walked around, forget the rest of the country, have you walked around Accra lately? Just take a walk. I know you love your lifestyle and you know you're living good, Samson, but go to Nima, go to Ashaman, go, what, circle, don't go far, circle, right, Adabraka, just don't get in your car, just walk down circle. I'll take a walk with you. So you could go to the places I go, by the Odona, the Cecilia Dapa Foundation, that place. Go and look there and see the children there and look at how the infrastructure has been very poorly done and how people are living. And then compare to these numbers, and these are two totally different worlds.
Tell me what you see positive about the manifesto
I don't.
380 promises
Talk.
of what they call bold solutions. And some of them are indeed bold.
Really?
Scrapping e-levy, scrapping betting tax.
Samson, sometimes, listen, you create something, hey, I put the water in this bottle, I'm going to get this water out of this bottle. Wow, that's
Bold
great.
solution.
Bold solution. See? What's bold? You created a mess.
You put the water there in the first place.
You created a mess, Samson. What's there that's bold about this thing?
We had over 100 and a dozen, or more than 100 and a dozen ministers, like 126 or 5.
Okay.
And then the president
127 on the first term.
Okay.
127.
And then the president came under pressure. He ignored initially, subsequently reduced to 85.
Now stop right there. Stop right there.
Bawumia says, I'll do 50.
Okay. So now, if a president starts at 127 and under pressure he's able to bring it to 85, what that tells you is he could have started with 85 to begin with. If this man here is saying he's going to take it from 85 to 50, they could have done this whole 8 years with 50.
In Kenya, they brought pressure to, what's his name again?
Raila. No, not Raila. Professor what? Ruto.
Yes.
Professor Ruto, yeah.
They brought pressure on him. He collapsed the entire cabinet. Now, reality is biting back. They need to do the things that they were doing because the people were asking for it.
Because they were incompetent.
He's saying, I'll give you 50 ministers.
Incompetence.
Mahama says, I'll give you 60.
I'm going to give you 10. 10 ministers, 10 ministries.
The Constitution's framing will give you at least 19, not 10.
No. That's a cabinet.
Yes.
That's a cabinet. So you bring it, no. That's 19 maximum.
Yeah.
It doesn't say you have to have 19.
Yeah.
It says 19. Come on, man. Samson, you're a master of Constitution. Don't let me come here and talk about Constitution. Yeah. You're not reading your book? Come on.
I asked the questions. Let me ask them.
Okay. So Samson, let me tell you this. There is a very specific way of building a nation. Very specific. Now, nation building requires some, first of all, you need a leadership of excellence. You have to have the humility to put together a mastermind. A mastermind that does what? A mastermind that creates a masterpiece. And out of the masterpiece, you create the master key. The purpose of the master key is to develop a system. A system's job is to create structures that gives birth to standards. The standards are going to be the models of success that you have in your leadership. So now, if you have a leadership of excellence, it will promote excellence, it promotes talent, it promotes competence.
Okay.
Now, I want to really finish this. And then if you have a leadership of excellence, it punishes corruption and substandardness. And then you put together a functional government system that holds this whole place like a mechanism of homeostasis that keeps it in balance. That's what we need to have. Have you ever heard these people talk about what I'm talking about to you now? Now, let me tell you this. A developmental plan, a national, and I don't even understand why he has a manifesto, because Ghana needs a national development plan. So
he commits to that. He commits to the ideal of a national development plan that is, as it were, compulsory for all, mandatory for all political parties to feed their, programs into it, so that we don't have the situation where NDC says, I'm doing
good enough
Saglime. The NPP come, they completely abandon it. Then we're getting to elections. They are quickly running around to do it again. Then they are building new ones. The NPP started, Kufuor's regime started to do some affordable housing. The NDC comes into office, they abandon it. They are going to the STS.
Thank you very much.
Then we end up where? Nothing.
Well, but this is my point. So it's not just talking about let's have a national development plan. It's about crafting a national development plan and entrenching it in a constitution so that the NPP or NDC, they cannot come and change things. But this is exactly what they say. Mahama comes and says, oh, we're going to start a national development plan. We're going to go back to it. Well, the last time you had a chance, you didn't entrench it in the constitution. That's why the NPP came and changed things. And the losses that are coming from not having a national development plan is borne by the people of Ghana. And this merry-go-round keeps happening.
You're right about that. Now, let me go to Dr. Osai Kopon. Thank you very much for joining us, Prof.
Yes, my pleasure, Samson. Good morning.
Great. So tell us, what does the Afrobarometer say now? And you have given us what should be the blueprint, as in the CDD. You say that unlike previous election cycles in Ghana's Fourth Republic, this year's manifestos must respond to 1, unprecedented governance, socio-economic and security challenges. These challenges include the worst economic crisis since the 1980s, national indebtedness, rampant government corruption, widening inequality, high and persistent youth unemployment, increasing poverty, weak institutions for accountability and local administration, a looming health and environmental crisis exemplified by galamsey, i.e. illegal mining, ravaged forest and water bodies, and internal chieftaincy, and so on and so on. You say your assessment is that this is a result of persistent misgovernance. So, looking at the manifesto you have seen, it does appear it addresses your concerns, does it not?
Thank you again, Samson. Good morning to your panelists in the studio. It still falls short. If you follow even the campaigns outside of these manifestos, if you follow the campaigns, there's a lot of emphasis on the economic issues, the economic challenges, job creation. And that's important, especially if you think about all of the challenges that we have faced over the last couple of years. I can see why trying to fully restore the economy and getting it back on track would engage the energies of the two political parties. Again, and if I should go back to Afrobarometer, I can see why jobs become very important. If you look at Afrobarometer over 9 rounds, unemployment and job creation has always emerged 5 times out of the 9 times as the number one most important problem for Ghanaians. So I do understand the emphasis on that. But I think if you also look at a lot of the good governance and democracy indices over the last couple of years again, for me, and as the CDD is saying, you cannot also not make governance issues a core or a key center part of this year's election, right? So everything that Afrobarometer has captured, the democracy index, the VDEM Institute, freedom in the world, you name it all. There's a point of convergence that says there are some real challenges with our democratic architecture and with our governance architecture. And for me, that is what I'm still yet to see the really quote unquote bold solutions that says, here's how you tackle some of those key governance issues. Samson, let me give you a couple of examples. So for example, if you look at just Ghana, and if you look at 9 rounds of Afrobarometer, 6 key challenges as I identified last year comes up. Weak, growing perception of corruption in institutions, low levels of trust in institutions, a growing perception that people in office get away when they commit crimes versus ordinary people, a growing feeling that our elected representatives do not listen, growing dissatisfaction with democracy, right? The Democracy Project had a meeting at CDD earlier on this year with representatives of the political parties. And one of the things we encouraged them to do was to come up with a democracy pledge and make it as part of their manifestos, in which some of the challenges that we identify, that they pledge specific ways that they would address it.
Exactly.
Yes. I mean, yes, I'll give credit to the NPP manifesto. So, for example, one of the things that caught my attention was this idea that they would pass a Corrupt Practices Act, where they're pooling all the different institutions, rules, regulations that is designed to address corruption into one.
I have heard the best of lawyers whose law can sink a ship. Is Nkrumah says we have all the good laws in this country. And as far as corruption is concerned, once again, we have some of the best laws. But where are we? You are complaining about unprecedented widening corruption.
Right. And so my point is, in recognition of that, I'm pointing that out to say maybe there's still that one thing that, I mean, the idea caught my attention because, sometimes you get into this, well, it's outside of my jurisdiction. Well, this issue should go to that agency, or this other person is more suited to address this issue of corruption that has emerged. So who knows? Maybe when you pull it all together, the clarity that it brings, the certainty in terms of the points of where you fight corruption, may help. So that's one. There's the issue of going back to this election of MMDCs in responding to, the governance issue. So there are some of these governance proposals to address some of these challenges.
Prof, when you look at the Movement for Change, Alan Chamantin's group,
yes.
Now the umbrella group is the Alliance for Revolutionary Change. They take the District Assembly's issue head on. And I know you know my interest in that area. Yeah. The CDD survey and Ghanaians generally said, we don't want it the way Akufo-Addo wanted it. Make it partisan. We should use what other countries have done, which is also lasting, non-partisan. The CDD survey confirms that Ghanaians want it non-partisan. The Alan Group say, we will do it the way Ghanaians say they want it. President Akufo-Addo stopped the referendum to avoid Ghanaians voting to say we don't want it to be partisan. Why is it that Bawumia cannot say that categorically in this manifesto, but he's talking about doing consultations? Which consultations again?
I'm not inside Dr. Bawumia's head. Perhaps he's yet to sort of figure out all of the specific details in how he wants to approach the reform of the local governance system. So maybe he's not yet at the position, and this is just my speculation, maybe he's just not at the position where he wants to categorically say this approach is better than this approach, or this is my preferred approach in how we go about with reforming the local governance.
No, I'm talking about the people, what the people say they want. On this issue, does it sound like buy one Bawumia, get another Akufo-Addo free?
No, but you're right. I mean, the research is clear. The people have made it very clear what their preference is. Now, as to why he still wants further, consultation with all of the stakeholders, perhaps is to convince them otherwise that this other approach may work.
Does that not also say there's no clear commitment and intention to prosecute that agenda?
I don't think so. The commitment is there. For it to have made its way into the manifesto, for me, is a promise that says, I want to do this. Now, as to how specifically I want to do it, time will tell. But okay. I don't think it undermines his commitment to wanting to see some kind of local government reform.
Okay, so let me ask you this question now. What some people may be asking or may have asked, and our job here is to mirror what the public is thinking. Is it fair? This is a manifesto of the NPP, correct?
Yes.
The NPP is the government now.
Yes.
You have introduced e-levy. Mm-hmm. Ghanaians fought against it. And through the minority, you keep blaming the minority for fighting against e-levy. Then now you are saying, I will scrap e-levy. You brought upon us unprecedented, historic 126 or 7 ministers. Then you have reduced to 85. You say, when I come, I'll give you 50 ministers. You are currently implementing betting tax. Your opponent says, I will scrap it. You come to tell me, I will scrap it. President Akufo-Addo says, vote for Bawumia because he has a better vision. The NPP say, support Bawumia because he has a better vision. Why are they not implementing what they want to be implemented only when Bawumia is voted into office, if?
Right, but Samson, in all fairness too, I'm sure if we look at the NPP's time in government in this Fourth Republic, right, there are some things that were core to former President Kufuor's government that President Akufo-Addo has done differently. Yes, maybe some of the core principles and ideas would have been the same, but he's also pursued different policies, although it's coming from the same party. Yes, Dr. Bawumia is the vice president, and he's part of a government that implemented the e-levy, for example, right? But that was done under the Akufo-Addo administration. Now he says, Bawumia under a Bawumia presidency and another NPP government, I have a different approach. I want to rethink the e-levy. I want to approach it differently.
Doc, this manifesto, this manifesto is not Bawumia's manifesto. It's the NPP's manifesto. The NPP,
but
the NPP have generated this manifesto. The sitting president endorses it and says the things there are good. They are bold solutions. They are superior to what John Mahama is offering. Why is he not implementing them? That's the question.
But Samson, you also two key things. One, it's the NPP's manifesto that will be implemented under a Bawumia presidency.
That's correct.
So I don't necessarily expect that all of the things under an Akufo-Addo presidency would repeat itself under a Bawumia presidency. If he sees some of those things differently, if he thinks about some of those things differently, e-levy being an example. Yes, I know the vice president has been in a difficult position in terms of not having said much about the e-levy during the introduction, implementation, and all of that. That's one. Two, he's the vice president. Yes, I know that that the narrative has come up that well, you are now vice president. You are part of the government. Why don't you do all of these things? I mean, realistically, it's not his administration. Yes, he has a voice. Yes, he can give an input, but it is not his presidency. And so even if he wants some things done, ultimately...
Why, Doc? Akufo-Addo doesn't want these bold solutions. He doesn't want the best of things.
Of course he wants the best of things.
So he should do them. That's the question people are asking. He should just do them. Reducing the cost of data, bringing down the cost of living crisis. He should just do them. That's all they are saying.
Yes, it is Akufo-Addo's presidency, right? Ultimately, he's the president. He sets the priorities. Bawumia is saying these are good ideas. The party is saying these are good ideas. But these are good ideas that I will be able to implement under a Bawumia presidency. I mean, yes, he has 4 months, as vice president. My point is that an Akufo-Addo presidency has a different set of policy priorities than a Bawumia presidency would have. Yes, I'm sure that there will be some policy continuity, like free SHS, but he also wants to implement some of his own ideas. And I think I understand the politics of that narrative that do it now because you're vice president, but it really doesn't work that way. Okay. I mean, think about the US. Kamala Harris is promising a number of things she will do as president. And there can also be that temptation of, well, you are the VP now, why don't you do them? But the reality is that it doesn't necessarily work that way. I mean, this government may believe that you need the e-levy. Bawumia believes you don't. So how then do you get him to scrap the e-levy now?
Thank you, Doc. Thank you, Doc. Let me bring in the NPP representative on the show now. In the US, I haven't heard, and I've followed. I love the democratic,
dispensation.
How the democratic, the party, how they are doing their things, and I follow a lot of what they are doing. In fact, the DNC they just finished. I followed that of the Republican as well. What I don't see is a policy that Biden is pursuing that Kamala Harris is promising to do anything different about it.
You're right.
I don't see any legislation that has been brought in that she is saying when she comes, she will repeal or overturn it. Unlike Trump, who is very blunt about some of these things. So the comparisons may not be exactly correct. How do you answer to that question? That you took that platform and said Bawumia and the Manifesto holds the best for Ghana. Akufo-Addo did the same. Almost all of you did the same. You are in government. People are complaining. They don't want the e-levy. If Bawumia can do it by the stroke of the pen, and you are endorsing it as a party, and you are asking to be voted for, why not do it now? Betting tax, all of them. If you want to remove it, why not?
Well, let me say good morning to your good self and my co-panelists and obviously to our cherished viewers and listeners. Samson, it's surprising that we discount the fact that those fiscal policies that Bawumia is saying when he comes into government he's going to remove. It's a basis of an approval that is being operated today. So your tax envelope that Parliament has approved, the revenue sources that Parliament has approved, which is running your budget for 2024, includes all those revenue measures. So if Bawumia is in a position, or if the Akufo-Addo government is in a position to do something about it now, what it means is that you have to look for alternative revenue sources to plug that hole. Okay. But see, Mr. Mahama in government in 2016, he had a manifesto for 2017-2020. Did the question ever arise why he did not implement all the things that he was dreaming of doing between 2017 in the event that Ghanaians had given the mandate?
He certainly did. And if it's coming up in a pronounced form, there's a basis that the electorate wants.
I don't have a difficulty. You and I know what the provision Article 74 says, okay, where the executive presidency and the executive authority in Ghana is vested in one individual. Okay.
58.
Yeah, whatever.
58 one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. 58. Thanks for the correction. Invested in one individual. Of course, the vice president assists the president in, and of course, cabinet. And my good friend here has been in government before. He knows how cabinet operates. When people debate, articulate their views, a decision ultimately is taken. And whether you like it or not, that's the position of government. We're in this country when
you're not telling me.
I'm coming.
You're not telling me we are running an autocracy.
That's not
where the president at cabinet
I said a decision
commands everything else.
I said when a decision is taken. I didn't say the president decides.
Okay.
So when a decision is taken, we lived here in this country when the finance minister under the Akufo-Addo administration first time openly expressed a view that was contrary to what government position was on the implementation of the free SHS. So how is it the case that when the vice president indicates that when given the opportunity, he's not going to implement or continue a certain tax handle that is being implemented today, we have issues?
The party is endorsing, the difference is here. The party is endorsing this.
No problem.
The president sitting is endorsing this. Of course,
I'm saying
and telling the voters that this are superior views to
my point
what Mahama is promising and any other candidate.
Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is formulating his fiscal and economic policy. He will factor in the discontinuation of the e-levy and look for alternative sources that then enables him to roll out his programs without the benefit of the e-levy. So really, I fail to see how this even becomes something that we spend time discussing. The point is this. Dr. Bawumia has outlined...
Are you suggesting this is an illogic, that the people who are asking these questions are not thinking?
I haven't said so. But my view is that to the extent that Article 58, is clear, any executive president has a vision that he is articulating. Dr. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo articulated his vision.
The executive president is sponsored by a party.
I don't have a...
The executive president hardly does things that are not supported by the party.
These are notorious facts that I don't think we have to...
Okay, please go on. Yes, go on.
I'm saying that regardless of the party sponsoring, it's still an individual whose name and face we vote for. He is vested with authority by our constitution. And he takes the decision. The buck stops with him.
Let me put you on the spot.
Yes, sure.
What 1, 2, 3 things can you tell me the party wanted to be done that Akufo-Addo, vetoed, or things that the Akufo-Addo wanted to be done that the party has been against?
I don't think that is material. I'm saying that everything that the NPP government is doing today, I support 100%.
Okay.
And of course, there were bases why government rolled out the policies that it rolled out, including the e-levy. What was the basis? We had just come out of a pandemic. Government finances were challenged. Government said, look, I don't want to go back to IMF. I want to implement policies internally to raise revenue, cut expenditure. Outlined expenditure cutting measures in the budget and new revenue measures that he intended to roll out. Obviously, because going to the IMF was going to prescribe those same solutions or prescriptions that we all knew: cut expenditure, raise revenue. Then we go to Parliament. Okay, then Parliament approves the budget, which is the revenue and the expenditure component, proceeds to approve the appropriations and says, I'm not going to allow you to roll out the revenue measures that I have approved already in the budget. Obviously, the consequences were there for all of us to see. Between January and March of 2023, we saw how the city took a hit. Okay, our general economic environment suffered. And so, until the e-levy was rolled out in, I believe, end of March and subsequently implemented in May, a lot of harm had already been done. But I'm saying that those were measures that Akufo-Addo government rolled out to deal with a particular situation. Thankfully, our economy is rebounding. Dr. Bawumia says that when I get the opportunity to govern, these tax measures, I will not factor them in my revenue stream going forward. I'm going to implement a comprehensive tax policy, make a certain tax regime which is flat across, make it more realistic and practical for people to comply, cut certain component of our infrastructure, and let the private sector handle it, create space within our fiscal regime to ensure that we are able to provide the services that are critical for the good people of this country.
Okay, so that question
and so that realignment.
Can you look at other issues as your colleagues on the platform have raised concerns about, and what you want to project?
I listed quite a number.
Okay.
My senior colleague, I realized you went to Addis Ababa reading your profile sitting here.
Okay.
Yes, I'm a Santa too.
Nice.
And it's important that we temper the language, okay, that we use in. You may disagree with a certain policy proposition, but it doesn't, under any circumstances, make it useless. Okay, we can agree to disagree, and in all honesty, I don't think that you've taken time to read the NPP manifesto, because if you did, you wouldn't be making.
I have.
Yeah, but of course, you say that there was no mention of agric. Meanwhile, in chapter 10, agric and the policies on crops, poultry, agro-processing is all outlined there. You say he never mentioned the debt. Meanwhile, on page 6 of the manifesto, the vice president mentions the debt profile and all of that. You say he never mentions value addition. On page 181, he talks of value addition. They are all clear in black and white in the manifesto. You say the jobs that he mentioned are Zoom Lion jobs, as if to say those are not jobs. Yeah, they may not be the kind of jobs that we all will wish our children to have. And so the government is rolling out policy that ensures that people are able to go to school and all that. But I have the job numbers here. The 2.3 million jobs that you discredit, it's here. Okay, Ministry of Interior, Ghana Police Service, Prison Service, Fire Service, Immigration Service. 2017, 3,500. 2018, 3,500. 2019, 0. 2020, 3,549. 2021, 2,057. 2022, 3,200. Totaling 15,814. You go to Ministry of Works and Housing, regional integration.
How does the
10,000?
Keep your question.
And 31. Forestry Commission 102,000. Regional reorganization 1,728. Ghana Airport Company GCAA 1,356. Regional Maritime Organization under Ministry of Transport. So these are broken down into sectors, okay, and private sector, okay.
So if you take the first segment of the sectors that are government, immigration, police, almost every year they are recruiting.
Yes.
So what jobs have you created?
But they are jobs because remember,
you don't take credit for them.
Hold on. Between 2012 and 2016, there was a freeze under the Mr. Mahama administration.
It was not going to be a perpetual freeze.
But there was.
Because of a program. So yeah.
Because of a program, yeah, of course, you can argue that way. But the truth of the matter is that these jobs have actually been created over the period.
No.
Plus,
the jobs were existing. You just fill them. You don't create them.
You're filling vacancies.
You're filling vacancies.
Or adding because there were
no vacancies in 2012.
You didn't create them.
There were no vacancies. There were no vacancies in 2012,
You didn't create them.
2013, 14, and 15 and 16. There were no vacancies.
And Samson, the bigger point is you are feeding off a liability. You're not bringing in new income into the system.
So hold it. Yes, please go on. You are going actually to private sector.
I wanted to hear that one.
It's 975,164. And if you look at the data in 2017, it was 171,079 new jobs.
Right. Now help your viewers to understand something.
Yeah.
Help your viewers to understand something. I'm asking so that you will help, because of the first question I asked about which they have just tried to categorize as just filling vacancies. What's government's role in the employment in the private sector?
Excellent.
Of course, it's the environment that you create, okay? And so the policy that you rolled out in one district, one factory will create jobs.
Correct.
The policy that you create in the vehicle assembly space will create jobs, okay? And all the other things that government does that stimulates employment in the entrepreneurial skills training and the incentives that you provide, they are all things that create jobs.
That's right.
But there's a clear admission on the part of Dr. Bawumia that this notwithstanding, there's still a huge gap.
He said, but this is not enough.
Absolutely. It's not enough.
We must do more.
Precisely. And he outlines his vision of the things that he intends to do to create more jobs. We can critique it. I don't have a problem. Okay? But you cannot wipe it off with a stroke of a hand as if to say, no thinking has gone into the document. Okay? I'm saying that if you look at the manifesto that was launched last week, it addresses issues all the way from cradle to grave. Okay? From child mortality issues, from, the opportunities that the government is creating in education to ensure that we build some human capacity that will deal with our 21st century issues, all the way through to employment creation, care for the aged, if you permit me, how we're going to sustain and expand our economy, which is rebounding. Samson, there's no denying that we have had a very challenging economic situation in the period between 2020 and 2024. These are matters of fact, okay? What accounted for it, government has outlined them. Of course, people disagree, which is okay, because like my good friend in Nusa said, in a democracy, people will disagree with you.
In fact, the manner he went about part of his critique, I felt that was problematic, because if they launch their manifesto this afternoon and we have to use the same argument on their manifesto, he will not be happy about it. That these are things that you've just written their words.
And he makes the point that they are empty rhetoric. But you see, thankfully, we have an institution in this country that takes the pain of assessing manifestos. Imani. They call it a manifesto.
That's right.
And you can look at the track record of both parties. Truth. No government has been able to achieve all the commitments that they made at every election cycle, because several factors will come in to determine whether you are able to deliver on all your commitments or not. So, for example, when Akufo-Addo came into government in 2016, we knew there was a challenge in the banking sector. But did we know the extent? Because there's been an attempt to resolve it through the liquidity support that Mr. Mahama had provided through the Bank of Ghana to banks. It turned out that what they did to those resources, we all subsequently saw in the Boulders report. We knew there was energy sector issues, but did we know the extent? Did we know the extent of excess capacity contracts that have been contracted? And so government had to deal with them.
But we knew. Your ministry knew. When you went there, you knew.
I said
that's why we suggested that the World Bank suggested that some contracts ought to be cancelled and others rescheduled. You knew.
I'm saying that it was when we got in that.
No. It was there before you got there. Mind you, I was working at the ministry before you went there. It was there. It was there before you went there. No, I said what? It was there. It was there before you went.
Okay, please allow him to finish.
Not a problem. But we all got to know that 35% or so of all the invoices that are generated by the IPPs were actually excess capacity payments. You needed to pay government contracted debt to pay them down. Not all of it. Then you began the process, of course, working with the IMF at the time when we came 18 months after implementation, most of the targets had not been met. So there was a negotiation to extend it by another year or so to make sure that we ran the cycle to exit, having achieved all the targets. We did that. The economy was growing. In 2020, we were hit by a pandemic that affected every single country in the world. People argue that the impact on Ghana is different from other countries. And why not? Because Ivory Coast, for example, they don't have energy sector and banking sector crisis that they had to deal with. So I would say that we had underlying conditions. So the impact of COVID on our country will be different from what it would be on Togo, Nigeria, and Burkina Faso. Fast forward, you try to then roll out a program to deal with those problems that had arisen. Then we have the challenge that we had with the e-levy in Parliament. Immediately thereafter, you have a war. That disrupts global supply chain and increases freight cost average from 2,500 to 18,000. Why? It will impact cost of living. Because imports, and I agree with you when you say that it is not right for Ghana at this level of our development to import guinea fowl from Denmark or tomatoes and onion from Burkina Faso. But government policy, planting for food and jobs, requires private sector to take advantage of those policies to roll out, okay? And so if we are not responding sufficiently enough, it will create issues. In an attempt to even deal with that problem, Samson, you recall the airline that Katie Amon sought to introduce in Parliament to try and place a cap.
Price control.
No, not the price control, not the cement one.
Okay.
The one that related
things,
to the importation
the
of rice.
and all those things.
What happened? Because you ought to start from somewhere.
Okay.
Look, you lived in America.
I lived in Ghana.
You lived in America. I've checked your profile. I didn't know you before we came here. I've read. You lived in America. I'm not so sure whether 60 years after America's independence, all their problems had been solved.
Oh,
we are a developing country, for crying out loud.
That's such a weak argument.
It can never be. It can never be. I'm saying that, yes, there are some things that obviously we all ought to work to accelerate. I don't have a difficulty with the view that we should not be importing tomatoes. But these are the policies that government with time.
All right.
Based on your revenue stream that you are able to, and of course, wastage and all that needs to be checked. I agree. Okay? But there's a lot that has been proposed in this document that if the good people of Ghana buy into it and give us the mandate, I'm sure that all things being equal, after 4 years when we come back to seek another mandate, Ghanaians can evaluate and determine that indeed these things have been done and that it is worthy of giving NPP another opportunity.
Just one
it
question.
Can never be empty.
Just one question and under 1 minute of response. And then I'll get just 2 minutes from all of you, just 2 minutes each, so we can go to the next topic. We were made to understand that Bawumia was not in support of e-levy at cabinet level. He was against it. Some of the NPP people came to tell us these things. That's correct, isn't it?
Well, I wasn't there at the time, but yes, that's the position that has been articulated. Yes.
Okay. Now you endorse the scrapping of e-levy.
Yes.
So
that's his vision. Yes.
So you admit that you are wrong on it?
Not at all.
The minority and Ghanaians who were against it were right.
So I've said to you that there was a certain problem that we needed to deal with. You needed to raise revenue, cut your expenditure. You've outlined in your budget all the expenditure cutting measures and the revenue that you were rolling out. The thinking, I believe, at the time, which informed the proposition, was that, look, our economy is not formalized sufficiently enough. There's a whole bunch of transactions that go on the electronic space people earn revenue but don't pay taxes.
The thinking that opposed it also had the alternatives
no
that
issues,
will
but
now be implemented if he's voted.
I don't have a problem, but it's all a question of timing. Okay? And at the time, the finance minister and cabinet believed that that revenue stream was going to help. What did we then do as a government to, as it were, reduce the impact that people were complaining of?
Right.
Was taking away the road tolls, which have turned out not to be a good policy. And we have graciously admitted that, and indeed, very recently, the roads minister has indicated government's intention to reintroduce road tolls in a certain manner, okay? Because you want to do private-public partnership in developing some of our infrastructure as a country. Necessarily, they have to recover their investment. And so these things, and so,
right.
Look, I at the time, spoke vociferously in support of the e-levy because I believed in the issues that the finance minister had outlined and the reason why he needed that revenue to enable us meet the commitments of government.
Thank you. So
Dr. Bawumia says going forward, I'm not going to implement this. I'm deploying new strategy that then will enable me to generate sufficient revenue to meet my commitments.
Road tolls will come back. Road tolls, the toll booths have all vanished. That's at the cost of the taxpayer, like you were talking about. So now I need just 2 minutes of your concluding comments. Yes, Inusa, starting with you.
The first thing is that
I'm holding you to it.
Something we never abandoned the completion of forced housing projects.
You did.
No, we didn't. Fred Smith was working here, and he reported on the matter.
Your commitment to it was
we
shambolic.
handed it over on May 25th, March 25th, 2014. We handed it over to Senate to complete, and Senate since completed it.
All right.
Yes. And Fred Smith.
So what happened between 2009 and 2014?
What I'm saying is that we completed it.
So I'm saying that between 2000 and
2017,
you abandoned them.
Between 2000 and 2017 today, you have not even gone to Botima.
Kofi, so you see what they are doing. That's what I was talking about. That's what I'm talking about. You see, Sagleme was sitting there and we're being told, giving excuses.
They both should.
The sugar factory. We're giving excuses upon excuses. We are getting to elections. All of a sudden, we are seeing that something is being done. Yes.
But something, Tomia says that by all accounts, the NPP government from 2017 to date has performed more than any other government. Statistics don't lie. In 2016, government deficit was 6.1. In 2020, government deficit was 15%. In 2022, it came down to 12%. How can this be better than 6.1? Growth. In 2016, growth was 3.6%. In 2023, 1.5%. How can this be better than any other government? In 2016, inflation was 15.4%. Inflation, 15.4%. In 2022, inflation rose to 54.1%. In 2023, inflation was 23%. Now it's hovering around 22%, 22.7%. How can this be better than 15.1% in 2016?
All the factors, the exogenous factors, all of that, you ignore them.
Well, I'm not ignoring, I'm talking to the statistics.
Hold them at a constant for the period we are talking about.
We are holding them at a constant. At all factors being equal. In 2016, unemployment was 8.4%. In 2023, unemployment started at 14%. Now it's 14.7%. How can this be better? In 2016, food inflation, when we talk about hardship, all things being equal, food inflation should have been dropping or rising at a slower pace. In 2016, food inflation was 8.7%.
The wheat you were getting from Ukraine, you don't get anymore.
In 2000,
so you factor that in.
So wheat from Ukraine was sustaining us. You making bread? You mean bread was sustaining us? It was the food production. It was the investment that was made into agric. Not Ukraine. We don't eat wheat in Ghana. In 2022, 23, food inflation rose up to 28.7%. That's why there's hardship. And let me conclude by saying that, look, you see, it is important for all of us to know that when we come here and talk, we are seeking to educate Ghanaians on the truth, because the value of truth and honesty should animate political thinking and political talk. You can't perform so disastrously that 80 ministers of yours, 80, sign an agreement and forwarded it to you that you should remove your finance minister.
MPs.
On the MPs. And the condition that, on the claims that your minister was, the policies you were implementing was imposing hardship on the people.
Thank you. Yes, Kofi.
Let me conclude.
Your 2 minutes
if it
long
was a parliamentary system of government,
you would have been gone.
Yeah. Have been gone.
Okay.
So Samson,
yes.
And the whole of Ghana, what we are watching here is a display, MPP against NDC, NDC against MPP, each using each other for a standard that has clearly failed. And we know that. A couple of things. They talk so well about indices and metrics and graphs and percentages. Those are growth numbers. Growth numbers are not the same as development numbers. The indigenous Ghanaian is looking for a place to lay their head, food to eat, water, running common water, potable water. This morning I didn't have water coming in. Education, jobs, meaningful jobs, not the jobs that you go to that you can't come back home. Now, my senior Santa or junior Santa, I don't know which one, I think he's junior Santa, my Santa brother is talking about the fact that MPP created, Bawumia is talking about jobs. When you create jobs from an internal consumption, it adds to liability. It's not real jobs because it's borrowed money that they are using to create the jobs. It's not real money. You don't own the money. It's borrowed money. So you have to understand the difference between real jobs. That's why we need to focus on agriculture. But now the problem with agriculture is last year, 2023, this man, Dr. Bawumia, who's talking all this nice glitzy stuff, we spent 26.7 billion cedis on food importation. How do you go from 26.7? You don't know, you have slept for 8 years. You just waking up? This is not my facts. This is, and Samson is looking at it, that's why he's quiet. He would have interrupted me because he knows it's right. This is from the Ghana Statistical Service. 26.7 billion cedis of food. And then you come here and you talk about, oh, Bawumia wants to do this and create employment, and to me...
So it's the solutions, and he's talking the solutions.
No, but we have had the solutions. So now another thing, and this is what's scary, Samson. If it's taking you this long to find out solutions after 7 years, you need to be fired a long time. Now, another thing you said.
No.
You need
this
to be
is
fired.
Bawumia.
Yeah, I know.
Present is Akufo-Addo.
But this is the danger. You see, now, if Akufo-Addo had said that, you know what Bawumia is talking about, I don't agree with, he's a different guy, then he would have had credibility. You know why? Because then that means that all along, Akufo-Addo did not listen to Bawumia. So now, he's going to drive us somewhere different. But now, if Akufo-Addo is saying and vouching for Bawumia, then it means Bawumia has been lying all along, talking to us about, hey, I sat in the cabinet meetings, but nobody listened to me. I wonder why they didn't listen to him. Because obviously, if they listened to him, this would not be the result. Everything he's talking about in the manifesto would have been implemented. and would have seen some result.
Dr. Osai Kwapong, your 2 minutes. Concluding comments.
Yes, thank you very much, Samson. So for me, one, our two main political parties, other contestants would throw out ideas, would put forth, things that they believe, if pursued, would help us address all the various socioeconomic governance challenges that the country faces. I've gone through the NPP manifesto, they've laid out quite a number of them. The NDC would lay us out today. Others will do the same. Ultimately, it boils down to the Ghanaian people and who they believe and can trust that would be able to address some of these things. The other quick point that I want to make is, and I know it's traditionally not been part of the way we roll out our manifestos, but for me, the cost of some of these promises has to be dealt with. Last week, I wrote that for Daily Graphic. If you look at our fiscal picture, some of the projections in the budget, I think it will be very important to start at least attaching some cost to some of these very key promises. Even if you look at e-levy, repealing the e-levy, if we went by the projections of e-levy in the FY24 budget, we are talking between now and the next 3 fiscal years, almost about 8 billion lost in revenue, right? You would want to see how some of the candidates plan then to offset some of these things. I mean, I know at this stage, when you bring up, well, how much would these things cost? You're likely to get the response, we're talking about the ideas, concepts now. But I want to bring people's minds back to something Akufo-Addo did in 2012, when the cost of free SHS was coming up in that campaign. If you recall, he actually gave a speech where he laid out how much it can potentially cost us and how much of our GDP or oil revenue we can take to cover some of that. Yes, it was an estimate, it was a projection, but I think we have to really demand from the candidates and the parties some idea of, how much will these things cost and who is going to pay for it, because there is no such thing as a free lunch.
Thank you very much. Dr. John Osai-Kwapong is Democracy and Development Fellow, CDD Ghana, and Director, the Democracy Project. Inus Ofuseni is lawyer, former MP, Tamale Central, and former Minister Lands and Natural Resources, and later Roads and Highways. Andrew Ejapamesa is MP, he's a lawyer MP, secondee and Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture. Before, he was in the energy sector, and you could tell when he began to speak about on that area with so much confidence. Kofi Koranting is 2024 presidential hopeful, New Vision Movement. I suppose my advertisement of him lived up to the billing. We'll be right back.